Recording in progress. Okay, so now, so if you say, for example, you have here your, what do you call that? You have here your dependent variable. This is the resistance of a wire. And then you have here your independent variable, that is the diameter. Okay, so that is your experiment. You already performed the trial 1, you already performed the trial 2, you already performed the trial 3. And so you gather the American wire gauge, and then that American wire gauge, it has diameters. Okay, so if, for example, you buy in a hardware and then you ask them, can I buy a wire, and then they're gonna ask you what is the size. So they'll give you this size, American wire gauge. But this American wire gauge, they have the counterpart in millimeters. Okay, so again, this is now the independent variable, and this is the dependent variable. So let's try first to get the average resistance. How do we get again the average resistance? We need to add these 3 values and then divide it by 3. But of course, when using our formula, you can press equals, okay? And then there's a function that will gonna appear, and then click average. Okay, you can click on average. Can you follow now? And then click this one. Okay, clear? And then parentheses. Now, for numbers, it is like cross and check. So if you are like sure, instead of pressing enter, you press this check. Clear? We're able to get it? Thumbs up if it is okay. So next. How about now this one? Okay, so now, for example, you accidentally press it. Okay, so look at here. So it's getting like edited, right? You accidentally press the cell and it's get edited. So what you can do is to just click on the delete button in your keyboard, and then again, put a check mark out of it. Okay, so if you want to edit the text, just press here text, and then center, and then of course you can next. Now there's a yellow button here, yellow dot, okay, yellow dot here, and then you can drag. And that is the counterpart of automatic filling up. Here next, how about now the uncertainty? What is the value again for the uncertainty? That is the maximum minus the minimum divided by 2, right? Maximum minus minimum divided by 2. So you can press equals and then maximum. So there's an automatic here, max. Okay, and then what is the value? The value is this one. You can highlight it. C3 to E3. From C3 to E3, then put it in parentheses. And then remember minus. So you can click on the minus and then min. And then again, that is from C3 to E3. So from C3 to E3. So minimum, and then click on the value, and then you can just copy C3 to E3. Okay, and so this will now be your formula. This will now be your formula, and then simply divide it by 2. And then simply divide it by 2. So you can press the slash, the forward slash in your keyboard, then divide it by 2, and then click enter. Okay, were you able to follow? Were you able to follow? Thumbs up if you were able to follow. But if you have a question, you can, you can just raise your question here. So these are now the uncertainties. Okay, for the resistance. Okay, now how about if we're gonna get now the uncertainty for the diameter. So for the uncertainty of the diameter, we can simply get first we already know that the absolute uncertainty is 0.01, but we can get on the fractional uncertainty. So we can get on the fractional uncertainty. So instead of getting the percentage uncertainty by multiplying it to 100, we can get the fractional uncertainty. Fractional uncertainty of what? This is the fractional uncertainty of the diameter. Okay? So how do we put this in symbols? We're gonna put this in symbols by, okay, delta D. Okay, how to insert delta? You can change on your keyboard sign here. Let's just okay, and then show emoji and symbols. Wait for it. And then there's like a delta here for the math symbols, and there's delta. So we could have delta D, small letter D. So what's again the formula? That is actually the equals, press equals. Then remember, we're getting the 0.01 because of this value divided by, so click forward slash in your keyboard. Then click this one, 0.40. And then click check. Okay, so you might want to put it in the center and then drag. Oops. There's like a yellow button here and then drag. Okay, clear? Were you able to follow? Okay, how about the others? Were you able to follow? Okay, now, so we're ready to make a graph. We're now ready to make a graph. Oh, by the way, any question first before we proceed? Any question first? So far, none. Okay, so if there's no question, we're now ready to make a graph. So how to make a graph? So you can go directly by highlighting this diameter. You can go directly by highlighting this diameter. So let's highlight this one, diameter, and then you can press command, that is the control function, and then the average resistance. Okay, so meaning to say you select this, and then press command, highlight this one. And then after that, click on the insert, and then click on insert chart. After clicking on the insert chart, you could click the scatter one. Click scatter. Okay, and that will gonna give you a beautiful scatter graph. Okay, clear? Question first. So far, you're following now. So you can, by the way, you can adjust your screen so that you can see the graph. Okay, next. So after that, let's go first with the series. Let's go first with the series. So one good thing about numbers is that all the things that you need are already in this tab. So from format, all of these are already in the tab. Actually, it's really easier to follow. So from series, and then let's have a data symbol as recommended by the IB. The data symbol is X, right? So the data symbol is the X mark. Okay. And next, you can click on the trend line. So it's easier, right? So it's actually a lot easier. So next, instead of a linear one, right? Instead of a linear, we don't know, it's not really a linear one. So click on what we are using, the power series, right? So power. Okay. Next, after that, oh, by the way, let's try to click on the size of the X marks. Okay, so you can adjust on the X marks. Okay. So here. The next, for the power, you have to show the equation. So meaning to say, show equation, and there you have. There's already your equation. In fact, you can still edit your equation here. So if you click your equation, you can make a larger equation. So make the font size will be larger. And if you want to have a blue blue font color, you can still change it so that it is like the same with your trend line. Okay. So again, let's go back now to the trend line. And then what else do we need for the trend line? So we can also have a stroke where it is like broken lines. Okay. Okay. Are we clear now? Were you able to get it? Please do a thumbs up if you're able to get it. It's easy, right? So can I just double check if you are following? 1, 2. Okay. Next, how about if we're gonna insert the uncertainty? Okay. So meaning to say we want to insert the uncertainty. So from here, actually this one is a lot easier because if you click it already and then you click on the series, and then there's already here the x-axis error bars and then the y-axis error bars. Okay, there's already x-axis and y-axis error bars. So you can click here for the x-axis error bars. You can click positive. So let's try to focus first on the x-axis error bars. Okay, let's try to focus first on the x-axis error bar. So it changed, right? The graph changed simply because you have two large error bars. Now, so I want you to click on the positive and negative. And then for the X error bars, remember all the uncertainty in the X. What is again the X? These are the diameters, right? And we have the absolute uncertainty of 0.01. So we will use a fixed value and put a range instead of 10, fixed value, and then 0.01. Okay? Were you able to get it? For the 0.01, so fixed value 0.01 because you're absolute, meaning to say plus 0.01 and minus 0.01, right? Thumbs up if you get it. Thumbs up if you get it. Now, how about for the y-axis error bars? For the y-axis error bars, if you try to look here, we have different uncertainties, right? We have different uncertainties here. And so what you can do here, again, is to click the chart, click the trend line, okay? And then click on the series, and then click on the y-axis error bars, and click positive and negative. And then instead of using the fixed value, we have another way of expressing it. So click on this use, and then click the drop down. And instead of clicking the drop down, click custom values. Custom values. So what are we gonna do with the custom values? So for the positive, what's good about custom values is that for the positive one, we can go to the chart. So just put our click delete, and then meaning to say we can highlight on our chart. So for the positive, highlight this one. So go with this and then highlight with this one. Uncertainty of the resistance, highlight this part. So meaning to say, highlight that part. Okay. Make sure that it's table 1, G3 to G9, and then press check mark. Okay. So here, the positive value changed. Now, let's go now again to the negative value because it has a longer negative value uncertainty. Delete that. And then once again, highlight the uncertainty resistance, and then click check mark. Okay, you have now a horizontal and vertical error bars, right? So it's the graph is good. It's plain and simple. But I think there's one thing that we need to do, right? The one thing that we need to do, and that is to adjust the axis. Now, for axis, take note that don't forget that you have here the value of x and the value of y. Okay, so if you want to change the value of x, click this value of x. If you want to change the value of y, click this value of y. But first, let's try to edit first the value of axis. And what is the axis? If you can click on the axis name, right? So let's try now to edit the axis name. What is the x-axis name? That is diameter, right? So the axis name, you can double click on that. That is diameter. Let me just make it larger. We have your diameter. What is the symbol for diameter? Put parentheses D, and then slash. What is the unit? Millimeter square. That is millimeter square. How to do the millimeter square? You can click highlight, and then click on the how to make it like in square one. So temporarily, let's just put millimeters square. Okay, next. How about okay, let's go back here. So chart axis, so axis title. And if you want again to go back here on the axis, so axis labels, right? You can have the axis labels. And if you want to go to the chart, just go to the chart. Just click this chart. And then you will be redirected again to the value of x. And then we have already the axis name, the axis line. Now, axis scale, you could choose linear or logarithmic, but we're not using right now logarithmic. So we're just using linear. Now, what's the maximum? The maximum is here. The maximum is auto, but change it, meaning to say you can change it to 20 for the scale. But for the minimum, 0. Okay, so I think it's wrong. I'm looking for the vertical, so let's change it to, let's undo it, undo. 0.50, right? So you have here the 0.50 for the value of x, right? So for the 0.50 of value of x, you can have a maximum of what you want, 0.40. If I'm gonna change this to 0.40, then look at the graph now. If I'm gonna choose this like 0.50, then if you're gonna change, or 0.60. Depends on your choice. Okay, but I think the 0.50 is better. Okay, and then how about now for the major? For the major one. So if you try to look here, 0, 0.13, 0.25, 0.38, 0.50, right? So but meaning to say we're gonna have like 0.50 divided by 4 divisions. But if you're gonna check the 5 divisions, look now. So meaning to say 0.50 divided by 5, that is 0.1. So meaning to say per step, that would be 0.1. Of course, you will not choose 6, right? You will not choose that. So actually 10 would be also better, right? Because 0.05, 0.10, 0.15, but I think it would be better if we're gonna have like 5 divisions. Okay. Now for the minimum, of course, you have to set into 0. You have to set it into 0, and then you could have show minimum value. Okay, and you're gonna check on the reference line or then the major grid lines. Well, how about the major grid lines? The major grid lines, it has no grid lines, right? So you could click this one, major grid lines, and then for the minor grid lines, the smaller division, you can click minor grid lines. Okay. So how about for the if the 1 point here, meaning to say you are changing the thickness of the line, okay, for the minor grid lines. But let's just choose one. Okay, let's try to check on the minimum value here for the axis here. Let's go back here to 0. And then for the minor, look at the minor one. Look at the minor. If I'm gonna change it to 2, meaning to say it changed with number of divisions, right? It changed the number of divisions. So I think it will be better for you to, to have it is like 0.40 and then 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it will be better if we're gonna use uh, 5 divisions to make distinct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0.40 so that would be the use, right? That would be the use of that. Okay. What else that we should do? I think we're all okay with this. Now let's go now with okay, let's go now with the value of y. For the value of y, we can change again the maximum. This is what I'm saying. Maximum is 20, right? So we're gonna adjust here. So if I'm gonna say it's 30, we're gonna adjust here. But I think 20 is good, right? 20 is good. For the minimum, that will still be 0. And then for the major, how many steps? So here for the major, so 5, 10, 15, 20, right? It's really good. That's 5, 10, 15, 20. But if you're gonna make it like five five divisions, meaning to say 4, 8, 12, okay, 6 divisions. But I think the one is better is 4. Okay. And next, again, we can have the major grid lines again, plus an editing in the value of y. So again, uh, major grid lines, and then what else? We can change on the color. You can put it like black. Instead of 0.5, you can choose 0.75. I think that would be like 1. Better it will be 1. And then minor grid lines, you can add minor grid lines. And how many divisions you want? So I think it will be better if we're gonna have like 5. So that 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay. So we have now a good graph, right? So again, so that is the expected graph. Oops, by the way, we forgot something. We forgot to label this part, right? We forgot to label this part. What is the label, right? What is the label? So chart. Again, let's click on the axis labels. Wait. Let's click on the chart and then axis and then value of y. We haven't changed the axis name. Okay. So let's try now the axis name. What is the axis name? Value axis, then just double click it. And then that is resistance. Again, the symbol is capital R and then /, oops, just click the undo. Click /, again, there's like an automatic like, click the undo. So that's R /, and then what's this unit? The unit is ohms. So well, instead of copying that, let me just introduce how to do that. So you can always click Greek, right? Greek. And then you don't know where's the ohm here. So you can click on the show keyboard viewer. And then there's your Greek letter symbol. So where's the ohm here? Ohms. Wow, I think I need to click the shift. Okay, this one is the ohms. Okay, I need to click the shift, and then this is the ohms. Okay. Click shift. What's happening? This one. Okay, there you have. Then let me go back again to US. That's my keyboard, and then that's it. Okay. Any question first, or do you need to clarify anything? So, okay. So let's start. Okay. So now, we forgot to change the title. That is actually average resistance. You can click on the resistance versus diameter. Okay, now, so next, how about if we're gonna linearize the data? How about now, the power series will gonna give you a clue that this is x raised to negative 1.9, right? So it will gonna give you a clue that in order to linearize it, you have to make the x raised to negative 1.99 rounded off negative 2. That is the idea behind it, right? We're gonna have the x raised to negative 2. And so how we're gonna do that in the chart? So meaning to say the diameter we're gonna be squared. So click on this part. So to linearize that, that would be the diameter squared. Or d square. I highlight this one. And then plus. White hanging. This one, diameter square. Baseline superscript. Okay, there you have it. And then what is now the unit? Now, if you want to insert a line or a break from this, you can click insert and then click line break. Okay, so that we're gonna proceed on the next line. And then millimeter and then squared. Again, you can highlight that one and then click on this like button. And then baseline and then superscript. Okay, were you able to follow? Thumbs up if you were able to follow. So again, click equals, meaning to say I want to square this, click equals, and then there's like a function here in 0.40. And since we are squaring it, okay, you could have raised to 2, right? Then click enter or click the check mark, so 0.16. And then let's make it at the center. And then again, our favorite one, we're gonna drag. Say for example, the dragon exists. Yes. Okay, so there's a problem. There's like inconsistent decimal. You can click highlight it. And then click on the, let's try to click on the cell. Okay. Click on the cell. and then specify, well, how many decimal do you want. Of course, we want we so of course we want, okay, so we want here to have 2 decimal places, 3 decimals, 4 decimals. We're able to get it. So cell, and then decimals, and then make it like 2 decimal places. Okay. So the uncertainty, how do we get the uncertainty for the diameter, right? Get uncertainty for the diameter. Remember that we are squaring it. So let's try to get uncertainty for the diameter square. Uncertainty for diameter squared. Okay, how are we gonna get the uncertainty of that? And we want to get the absolute uncertainty. So here, instead of saying fractional, we just want to get the absolute uncertainty. Absolute. What do you mean by this absolute uncertainty? So meaning to say, what is the plus and minus uncertainties for the diameter squared? So what we are doing here? So remember that we're gonna get the fractional uncertainty of this. And then since we square it, right? We square it, meaning to say we have to multiply it by 2. But we are reciprocally, but the reciprocal function, it doesn't affect the uncertainty because it is just like saying that it's like divided by 1. So the reciprocal function doesn't affect the uncertainty. So we are just getting the uncertainty when the squaring function for the uncertainty. And so that is, we're going to multiply it by 2. So here, this fractional uncertainty times, since we square it, times 2. And then we will going to multiply it to this value. So let's do it now. So equals, so press equals. Whatever your value here, just press this. So meaning to say, H3, this is my value, right? The fractional uncertainty. And then times shift asterisk. In your keyboard, shift asterisk times 2 times shift asterisk, just press shift asterisk times this value. Are we clear now? Thumbs up if you were able to get it. Thumbs up if you're able to get the H3 times 2 times B12. I hope you're okay. Then click check mark. And our favorite one, drag it. Oops, what happened? Let me double check. H3, B12 times 2. Zero one. Just check it. 0.01, 0.08, 0.04, 0.00. Okay. Why do we need to multiply it by 2? Because of the squaring function, right? And remember, for the uncertainty, we square it, right? We square it for the uncertainty, right? So this, check. Okay. Try to increase the decimal here. Let's see. Okay. So these are the uncertainties for the diameter. Okay, let's try now to double check the values here. Okay. Next, how about now our resistance? Still the resistance is the same. It's not our problem here. So we have the average resistance. Let's copy this one and then copy the values. So command C, and then command V. I think it changed, right? So don't press command C and then don't press command V. It's gonna follow the formula. So erase it. So when copying a data, you can simply select this one. You can just simply put equals and then highlight the average resistance, then click enter. Okay, and then see, it will gonna have these values. It will be better that you're gonna type it automatically. Why? Simply because if you're gonna change these values, for example, you accidentally click 16.7. So for example, 16.7, so 16.57. So if you're just gonna write it like 16, for example, the data change, it will automatically change, right? So that's why it is better that you write your 16 point, so it will automatically change the values. That's why it's easier that you just do the dragging technique, and if you're gonna do the dragging technique, it will gonna change automatically. So that when you change your data here, it will gonna be on the trial 1, trial 2, and trial 3 only. Okay, so you have one set of data. Next, how about the uncertainty? Uncertainty for resistance is just copy this. So uncertainty for the resistance, just copy, then equals again, then click uncertainty, then click enter, and then click this yellow button, then down, and then text. We don't want that to appear that way, so center. Okay, were you able to follow? Please do a thumbs up if you were able to follow before we do the graph. Okay, please do a thumbs up if you were able to follow. Okay, so we want now to do the graph. And if you try to look at the graph here, okay, so we can click on insert chart. Again, insert chart. You can click on the chart here and then scatter plots. Okay, so we now have a linear value. Okay, let me double check. Class, let me double check first the formula. I think we got it wrong. It must be raised to -2. I think we must raise it to -2. So double check this one. This one must be raised to -2. Okay, and then click check. Okay, clear? So this must be raised to -2. And that's one good thing about doing it like this, because if you're gonna drag it, so you won't anymore repeat this part. See? Right? So here, -2, so that's it, right? And let's try to look. Let's delete first this graph. Okay. Again, highlight this part. Highlight this part. Let's try to highlight this. Select this part. Then click command. And then select on the average resistance. That would be now your, and then click insert chart, and then click scatter. Okay. Let's put it here. Okay. Were you able to follow? We have now the same set of data. Thumbs up. We now have the same sets of data. And then you can just freely edit it. Okay. First thing that we need to edit is to get the, trend line. Okay. So again, series, and then click on the trend lines. And that would be in a linear, and that would be obvious. And then show equation, and then Just if you want to edit the trend line, just click the trend line in the chart. Okay, and then click what stroke do you want. Okay, and then what else? Okay, if you want to click on this, okay, style, click for the style, and then sorry for the background one. It's my baby. She's crying. Sorry for that background. So symbol, let's click on stroke. Let's try the stroke. I have to look at the stroke. So it's getting a bit longer stroke here. Okay, and then how about this connection button? Okay, clear. And then okay, so that would be the trend line. And then show equation. You can change the font style of the equation, make it blue. Okay. Okay, so how about inserting now the error bars? We can again insert the error bars. Again, click on the graph and then click on the series. And then again, click on the x-axis error bars. Now, for the x-axis error bars, we already have the value, which is positive and negative. However, you need to choose the, what do you need to choose? You need to choose the custom values. Okay, and for the custom values, again, highlight the values. What are the values here? That would be the absolute uncertainty square. Highlight it, and then check. And then for the negative one, highlight it, and then check. Okay, there you have your uncertainties. Okay, clear? Thumbs up. Now, how about for the y-axis error bars? Positive and negative. And of course, we're gonna have use a custom value. Click on the custom values. And then for the positive one, let's try to look. That is the uncertainty. And then click check. See, and then for the negative one, highlight it again. And then click check. Okay. You have now your uncertainties. And then the graph doesn't look that good, right? Doesn't look that good. I think I want a better graph here. So in terms of like the maximum and minimum values, click on the chart. And then where's that? Click on the chart and then axis for the value of x. Let's try to look at the value of x. That will be fine. That will be 40. And then maximum is again 40. Minimum is, oops. I'm now in the value of y. Let me just go back to the value of x. So value of x, maximum would be 40. That would be fine. And then 0. Then how many lines? 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. That would be okay. And then major grid lines, put a major grid lines out of it. And then minor grid lines, put a minor grid lines out of it. And then emphasize how many divisions that you want. So we're gonna have 5 divisions, 30, 32, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if you want it like 10, that would be also fine. Okay. So if you want to increase the number of divisions, that would be also fine. Okay, so 5, 10, 15, 20. That would be okay. But it doesn't look good for the major grid, for the minor grid lines. So it doesn't look good. Just lighter version, right? Next, let's go now with the value of y. And then for the value of y again, let's have the maximum. I think we should get 20. And then 0. And then how many? Let's try to look now on the minor grid lines. Okay, major grid lines, that would be fine. Okay, we're now looking at the y. And then let's have more points. And then minor lines. And then I think we should have how many steps? Doesn't look good. Okay. Tick marks, you could have tick marks inside. Okay. You could have outside tick mark. Okay, those are the tick marks. Okay. And so this one is our linearized graph. Stop share. Okay, so let's now try to do the maximum trend line and the minimum trend line. So here, take note that this is the maximum trend line, this part, right? This is the maximum or the steepest one. And then this is the minimum trend line and the less steep, right? So here, we're gonna try to identify this one is, this part is x plus delta x, or the x plus the change in uncertainty of x. And then the y counterpart of that, you go down by uncertainty of y. So y minus delta y here. So next, for the other point, this point, for this point, you go backward by x minus delta x, and then you go up by y delta y. That would be the principle behind it, right? So here, I mean, what I mean here, okay, y plus delta y plus delta y, x minus delta x. So let me just get first these maximum points. So let me just copy this. Okay, let me put it in my graph. Okay, and then let me highlight it, maximum trend line. So, okay, then let me merge this one. I just want to merge it. Merge it. So again, how did I do that? Just highlight the cell and then right click, then merge. So next, so the idea here is x plus the uncertainty. And so what is the value of our x here? Is actually the diameter squared, so click equals, plus this uncertainty, right? And then click check mark. Okay. And then let's try to analyze on this part. So here, click equals, and then diameter, and that is, what's the idea? That's minus, right? Minus the uncertainty. And then click check. So we also want to adjust the decimal, click highlight, and then click highlight, and let's click on the cell, and then 2 decimal places. Okay, now how about for the y minus delta y? So again, click equals, but we're getting the average resistance plus, it's minus actually. it's minus this, then click check, and then equals, just follow this one, average resistance plus this part. Then click check. Thumbs up if it is clear. Thumbs up if you were able to get it for the maximum trendline slope. 1, 2. How about the others? Were you able to get it? Okay. Now, after that, let's try now to have the minimum trend line. For the minimum trend line, this is the function. And so this is the minimum. This is the minimum. So let's just try to use this, but I think I should add more columns out of it. So highlight, double click, and then add column after. And then we're gonna add a column here. Add column after. Okay, we're gonna add a column here. And then after that, let me just highlight this. And then click. Okay, that one. Okay, and then we're just gonna follow it, the same procedure. So highlight this one, copy this. So instead of maximum, let's have our minimum slope, minimum trend line slope, and then highlight these two cells, and then merge it. Okay. And then what's our formula? So here the absolute diameter minus, right? Minus the uncertainty, then click check. Okay, and then here that would be equals then diameter plus this one. Okay. Next, let's try to adjust the decimal. So highlight this one. Just drag the white button at the lower rightmost. And then have our 2 decimal places. Same with this, equals, and then average resistance plus the uncertainty, and then click check. And then equals average resistance minus the uncertainty, and then click check. I think we already have good decimal places, but let's try to center it out. Let's try to, so text, so because I'm referring to text, and then center. Okay, so how about if we're gonna add now the maximum trend line and the minimum trend line. So we're now ready. So here are the values of our points. And so what we can do here is to simply click this chart, and then click edit data references. Now make sure that the share X values is unchecked. Okay, because it will gonna share the same X values from the chart. So uncheck it. So make sure, don't forget to uncheck this one. Okay, and then again, select any table to add this data to the chart, plot column series. So from here, I will highlight this one. So this is my series of X, series X, series Y. So this will be plotted for my X and Y. And if I want to double check now my data, I can click here. And then the series had changed. Look at now the values. This is the table from the X value. That is, the X value is this one. And then the Y value is this. And the table is this one. Meaning to say, you can change the table name. This is just the table name. And then check. And also you can see here this green one. And then click on the linear, okay, for the trend line. And then you can click on the show equation. And then for the trend line, you can always change for the stroke of that trend line, and then change the font color so that will not be confused. Next, how about the other trend line? So we're now done with a maximum trend line, maximum slope for that. And then how about now for the minimum trend line slope? Again, what we're gonna do here is to edit data references. Go here, make sure that the share x values is not checked. So there's no check with that. Uncheck it if there is. And then highlight again this part. So this one will become our x and our y. And after that, we can double check now on the data. So here it's I12, so this one is the x and then this is the y. And next, let's have our linear trend line and then show equation for that. So the equation here. Then what else? We can change on the style of this trend line. You can double click that. Okay, and then you can change on the stroke. And then you can click this and then change the font color. And then I think it will be better if it's darker. Okay, and that's how we do it for the trend line for the maximum and minimum. Now I want to emphasize what will be now be the value of our slope. So the value of our slope here is the trend line, the blue one, that is the trend line for that. So that is 0.53, 0.53 or 0.54 by the way. And the unit here is, what's the unit? That would be resistance. That would be ohms per, what's the value here? Ohms per uh, millimeter square. Okay, ohms per millimeter square. Okay, what is now the uncertainty of that slope? So the uncertainty of that slope is actually the value of maximum, that is 0.68 minus 0.44, then divided by 2. And so the uncertainty of our slope is 0.12. And how about the y-intercept? So the y-intercept value is 0.18. The unit is the unit here is ohms, but the uncertainty would be the uncertainty here. That was the maximum and minimum. That is the negative 1.26 minus 1.16, then divided by 2. Then divided by 2.